Hello, everyone. Today we have with us Annika Haataja, SEO Director at Seeker Digital. Annika, thank you for your time and really excited to have you today.
Thanks very much. I'm very excited to be here.
Seeker Digital is a full service SEO agency. Annika, you yourself have had a wonderful journey so far. You have been doing SEO quite for a long time and you have an interesting journey yourself. It would be great that if you could introduce yourself for your audience and just provide some insights on your journey into the world of SEO.
Sure. Wow, that's a big question. But yeah, definitely. I'm Annika and I'm the SEO Director at Seeker Digital. Mentioned in the introductions. Effectively, we're a performance organic search agency to make it sound very fancy. So effectively, yeah, SEO agency based in the UK. My current role obviously involves very big focus still on SEO and the delivery side of things, commercial side of our client projects and account management, some technical SEO still. That's my background, and being able to execute that still in my job is definitely really beneficial and fun as well. And yeah, we're based in the UK. We've got clients across the globe, a few in the US, obviously UK as well, Europe. And yeah, different clients, mainly in SaaS and e-commerce enterprise industries, but not, I guess, to specifically focus on only one industry, although those are the ones that we have most experience in. And often, I guess, clients do benefit from that long experience, and seeing different trends in different markets is often quite interesting. And we can share those details always with our clients, which they tend to appreciate. But yeah, I've been at Seeker for almost 3 years now, I think. I started as a senior SEO strategist and then move on to head of SEO and now recently SEO director. Yeah, it's been a really good journey. And obviously, technically, it was a return back to agency life for me. I started my career as a freelancer, which is often like the opposite of what you do. You often finish your career as a freelancer because it gives you a lot of freedom. But yeah, I started, I guess, learning about SEO mainly when I was doing my uni degree in sort of digital marketing and doing my master's in Brighton in the UK. There was some local businesses that they were actually looking for a student to do marketing for them. And I was put my hand out, but I was like, this is very relevant for me. And I started doing marketing for a few smaller local businesses while studying, and effectively learning about SEO whilst doing it was quite interesting because essentially looking at universities and higher education. So it's not necessarily very highly relevant in the curriculum and not taught so much, as being a freelancer and a student couldn't really afford any big courses or mentoring. So yeah, very much originally self-taught, which was definitely good in a way that starting as a technically a marketing freelancer and marketing person, seeing the impact of SEO and PPC and social and newsletters and effectively trying to make them all work together was definitely interesting, although not a very experienced person, but that definitely did improve my skills and put me into some sort of a direction. And yeah, moving to New Zealand, I found my first agency role as an SEO analyst. So that's where the agency experience started, which definitely taught me a lot. After which I moved in-house and then, yeah, back to agency world again. So yeah, that's a bit of a summary. Obviously, a lot's happened in between, but yeah, it definitely taught me a lot.
But yeah, no, you have seen both sides, in-house and agency. So I think at like right now at the position you are at, I think you have all the experience to understand the client side as well as the agency side.
Mm,
Congratulations for a successful career and we wish you all the best for your future as well.
mhm. Thank you. Yeah, it's been definitely a ride, and I do feel this is like a topic I could talk about forever, and I love talking about like in-house versus agency and hearing people's thoughts and opinions and effectively trying to understand, is it a different kind of person that works in an agency versus in-house, or could anybody do both? Obviously, yeah, definitely could. And but what are the different learnings from working in-house and agency? Obviously, I guess what always brings to mind to me is just general empathy and understanding of the other side. Because often I think whether you're working in-house or agency, when you're in SEO, you have some sort of a frustration over something. And for clients, often the frustration might be obviously performance, because it's often related to their own personal performance and progression in the business as well. And I guess with agencies, it might be, oh, the we're only doing one small thing out of the wide spectrum of SEO. How can we control everything when we've been hired to do perhaps one thing? But yeah, effectively understanding both sides and how, as an agency, we can support the person who is the perhaps SEO manager or marketing manager in a business, and being able to elevate them and support their results and their role effectively. Because yeah, if you can prove the value that, okay, whatever the goals are, and that's super important to also focus on what are the actual goals and perhaps what are the personal goals for that person. So if we can help them, then that's usually a successful partnership overall. But yeah, I guess from SEO point of view, people often ask me like, what should I do to be able to be successful in house, or what should I do to be successful in agencies, and what have you learned? I guess like when working in an in-house role, perhaps some of the learnings you might gain, and what I personally feel like I did gain, is the understanding of how SEO like has an impact on the wider spectrum of marketing. Like in the job that I had, I guess it depends. 'Cause you can see when you're invited to certain meetings, okay, SEO is important for this. Like, why? Like, why did you invite me for this meeting? And like having that dynamic of being the voice of, whether it's sometimes the website or even the brand or technical side of things or content, is quite interesting to see. Actually, it had a company-wide impact. Obviously, not all companies think that way yet, which is obviously understandable because it's not the sort of, I guess, longest industry that has been around, still relatively new, and quite often quite difficult to understand as well as a stakeholder. But yeah, that kind of building the relationship and building the narrative and building the reputation within the business, often that takes almost longer than the actual SEO work itself. So
Yep.
very much
Yep.
managing those relationships. And yeah, I guess agency is slightly more focused on obviously the skills and training and learning and advancing your
Well,
SEO skills and being a bit perhaps a bit more technical and focused more on technical side of SEO.
no, absolutely. And I think one thing like which you mentioned, which I think is very important and a lot of people miss out on, is like when you talked about empathy, to make sure you're running a successful agency, like empathy has so many meanings here, because if you are somebody who is looking at every deliverable or every activity from a client's point of view, like even like a small task, like a keyword research, anybody can do keyword research, right? Again, by anybody, obviously there is difference in the skill set and stuff like that. Like anybody can just pull out a list of keywords from tool, just look at the search volume, difficulty score, and just give a dump of keywords. But then there's another difference where you actually look at it from a client point of view before giving to the client, look at their business, see which ones make sense, which ones do not make sense. Same two deliverables, but thought of in a different way. The
Mm.
ones where actually looking at each deliverable from a client's standpoint, I think those are like, that's the difference between a very successful agency with very less churn rate. So I think that empathy point is really crucial. And that too, like in today's world when things are changing so much, I think if you're not empathetic, like it's very difficult to run a successful SEO agency.
Yeah, exactly. And just even going back to like such a basic thought that, why are we here? Why do clients pay us? They have probably sometimes even longer experience or more skill than perhaps our team might have. usually, yeah, looking at why do they need external resource? Most often it's time. And
Yeah,
how do we make sure that time that we also spend and the outcome and output of that is valuable enough for them to not have to spend the time? So yeah, very much being almost the right hand of your client and your contact, and be, it sounds like a cliche, but be part of the team or be their team essentially.
yeah,
So yeah, that's definitely a big one, and understanding what their pain points are and why can you help them with those pain points.
absolutely. With the recent Google updates happening, how do you see content helpfulness impact performance?
Massively, really. And I don't think it's any one industry that is and will be and has been impacted. I think it's across the board. I know there's obviously a lot of chat about spam and not necessarily great results on Google still. And that's perhaps a different topic, but we're just focusing on the content itself and helpfulness. Then yeah, it's huge. Not only obviously from visibility point of view, which we've actually seen for a lot of industries that we've been researching, especially not interestingly, not August or September updates, but November updates seem to be quite a big one in terms of keyword visibility and the SERPs changing quite significantly. I think it's, yeah, definitely important to focus on helpfulness of content when we create it, when we optimize it, whenever we put any content on this website. It really has to serve a purpose for the user. Not only, everybody always says that it's, you're not doing it for Google, you're not doing it for search engines, but I guess technically you're not also doing it just for your website, not putting content out there because you expect that it should be on your website. But actually, why would you write that copy? Why would you create that image or that table or that infographic for the user? So essentially, understanding not only search intent, but also what can the user do with that content, and is it good enough for them to actually consume it, be satisfied, and essentially perhaps ideally purchase whatever you're selling, or would they try to find the information elsewhere even after reading your content? So yeah, how do we satisfy, the expectations of the user? And often we set the expectation ourselves. Like sometimes we might say, here's everything you need to know about this topic, but can you actually tell them everything that they can or possibly would want to know about the topic? Probably not. Whatever we state, especially in the beginning of the page, even such basic things as H1 or the meta title, is that's essentially giving them a promise. Like, this is what you will get with the content. And if you're not delivering on that promise, then why would they stay on the page or on your site? So effectively, it not only obviously impacts the visibility of the content, but also the experience, conversions, sales. So yeah, we're super crucial.
Any particular example that comes to your mind where you actually did a change in the content from a helpfulness point of view or an improvement point of view, and then you could see a direct impact?
Yeah, we've seen that with quite a few of our clients, really. And that's the purpose of the, like any optimization work, that we don't necessarily go and optimize just meta description or the headings, but there's always quite a sort of rigorous process when we do optimization. So effectively, we would want the final piece of content to be completely helpful, bring value, and have a purpose. And that's why a lot of the content work that we do now with clients not only includes optimization, but also removing content and repurposing it completely, refocusing it. Because I think it's very common for a lot of sites to have quite historically not only outdated content, but there might have been a reason for it to be published once for a social media campaign, and then it just stayed in their blog section, and they were hoping perhaps that eventually it will generate some traffic. But if those kinds of pages keep on happening and keep on increasing in volume, then that is not going to really help the website. So yeah, a lot of our work recently has been effectively removing the unhelpful content, because yeah, I guess as we know, like it can have a site-wide impact. Yeah, it's quite a high level, big strategic work instead of nitty-gritty. Obviously, sometimes the nitty-gritty work is needed. If we're talking about specific commercial pages that are super competitive and we just really need them to increase in rankings. But if we're talking about content strategy, then yeah, it's quite a sort of high level task, I guess, from that point of view.
Understand. Anika, like with all these changes happenings with AI, like content, again, like not quality content, but still content as a general term is becoming like more and more content is getting created, whether
Mm.
it's AI powered, like we have so much content being produced now as compared to like that was being produced earlier. Now, again, you have to make sure that you're standing out, you're creating content that is actually like helpful, provides value. So how are you seeing this change? Like more people using AI for content? Like what is the right way of staying ahead of the curve, like using AI, but at the same time ensuring that it's not having a negative impact on a client's website?
Yeah, I think a lot of people are interested in that and trying to find ways to produce content in this sort of new environment. I guess when it comes to AI generated content, obviously, eventually, if we generate content using AI, everything will be AI generated in the end, and it will just be repeating what's already there, like in terms of information. What has been like really nice to see as a bit of a trend from the other standpoint is the types of content that we have started to create almost as a default. So whether it's podcast and video and YouTube shorts and different variations of content that even smaller businesses may be used to have a bit of a barrier to do. Now with AI, you don't need to have a design team necessarily. You don't need to have really expensive software, but actually with AI, smaller businesses can have AI as their team to generate perhaps beautiful images, and which also is a bit of a question mark whether there's obviously conversations around stock images versus AI generated images. But yes, being able to create videos, etc. And yeah, from that point of view, it can be obviously super useful. But how do we make sure, if we're talking about website copy specifically, how do we make sure that it's valuable enough and unique enough? And we all know that uniqueness is definitely one ranking factor. So I think bringing the experts in has never been a bad idea. So whether you're a SaaS brand or e-commerce, there will be somebody in the business who knows everything about the product because they build the product, or they know everything about what the customers want because they speak to the customer every day. So bringing those people in within your content production and being able to reflect on what's going on in the business, in the industry, within the consumers' minds. Because if we're only relying on third-party data, which is AI or SEO tools, we're just going to be repeating what everybody else is doing. And it's really difficult to stand out and actually provide that extra value. And what's the unique selling point of your business? So, yeah, I think bringing more people in, but also bringing SEO in those conversations, because I guess we have the data from the external point of view. So it can be very beneficial sort of communication and dialogue between different teams.
In your experience, what are some common misconceptions businesses have about SEO ROI? How do you demystify the value proposition and demonstrate the tangible impact of SEO investments?
That's an age-old question, and I wish I had a report template or something that I can sell to people, because I would probably be a billionaire, because it's really hard, obviously, to prove the value of SEO. But I think the understanding generally has come a long way of what are the both tangible and intangible benefits of SEO. And obviously, I guess when it comes to ROI, in different industries, it can be more difficult to measure that. With e-commerce, I love e-commerce Google Analytics because you can actually see very clearly what the value is and communicated that to the client. But yeah, effectively finding new metrics as well that resonate with the client. Some metrics, especially when it comes to more creative side of SEO, for example, digital PR, some of those metrics maybe clients never thought about actually being important or being worth measuring. For example, brand search, like how much search volume or actual traffic we get from brand. Often that's sort of pushed aside. Oh, I'm an SEO, that's not my job. That's the business's job. But it's like, who's the business? Effectively, yeah, finding those relevant metrics and obviously try to find ways to attribute that to the work, which is not easy. I'm very much honest about that, especially when we're looking at long-term data. If we get really good coverage in March, it doesn't necessarily mean that by July our rankings would have improved. But I guess there's the sort of side effect when it comes to all the other elements of SEO and all the other elements on the website. And actually, the overall marketing, they all impact our results as well, which is obviously not what the client wants to hear. But effectively, I guess it's like us understanding it as, and not only accepting it, but just feeling a bit of empathy. Like we're talking about empathy for ourselves, but also our teams as well. Yeah, I think it's really important to start expanding from the more traditional measuring metrics like click-through rate or organic revenue, but actually looking at perhaps more intangible figures like share of search and coverage. What is the kind of coverage that the clients want? How well does the optimized content on specific pages, how does it improve? So sometimes we need to go into a bit more detail when we're reporting on our work.
Annika, tell us your favorite client story. I'm sure there must be many, whatever comes top of mind.
Gosh, that's a big question. I think it's difficult to choose one specific one. We've had, I guess, as a theme, we've had some clients who started off as local businesses back in Bristol, where we're also based officially, although fully remote at the moment. And we would have started working with them since maybe 2017, even 2016, maybe doing one small audit, perhaps a migration project, which is projects that I absolutely love. And back then, actually, the results would have been perhaps much easier to see, considering how the industry has changed, the competition has changed, Google has changed. But back in the day, even with after one audit, they might see a bit of a difference, and the interest might increase, and they would want to do more. And now looking at our relationship with them, they're making millions of pounds a year. Growing their warehouses and moving to new locations and creating business departments that didn't used to exist before. So I think those sort of success stories, although it's not always guaranteed, but it does make you realize that you can actually make quite a big difference. And that's often, as SEOs, it's hard to look back and realize how far you've come, especially if you're an agency and you work with multiple clients. It's quite nice to stop and realize that, wow, this business really benefited from our work. And even singular person, if you're in-house SEO and you might not even have a team, you can still make a big difference. So that's reassuring that we are needed.
Absolutely. Annika, I know we are short on time. I will not let you go without playing a quick rapid fire round of 3 to 5 questions. Are you ready?
Oh, all right. Yeah, let's do it.
What is your number one New Year resolution?
I think it has to be to stress less, because I think we all need to, especially after last year. I think a lot of people probably got to a point where things got stressful, like not just for work, but whatever is happening in the world. It's obviously easy to say, stop stressing, but finding maybe new ways of managing it and enjoying what we're doing and focusing on the sort of day to day, because it's fun stuff and it's great work. So yeah, trying to stay positive and look forward to the future more so than feel worried or stressed.
Honestly, in today's time, that's a very good resolution to have. I think a lot of us need that.
Great, good to hear.
All right. Early mornings or late night?
Late nights. I'm really bad at waking up early. I'm one of those people who gets really productive at, it could be 10 p.m. Not to say that I work until 10 p.m. I might have when I was a freelancer, but yeah, I can stay up for forever, although it's not very healthy.
Song that you never can get bored of?
Gosh. Oh, that's a good one. Sweet Child of Mine by Guns N' Roses. If you put it on when you're working, it gives you so much energy.
If a movie was made on you, what genre would it be?
I hope action, because although I'm not the most, I don't know, I'm very introverted, but it would be nice to have an action film for sure.
Do you remember your last Google search?
Probably, God, I search every day, so it's hard to say. What I often search is if I'm writing a word correctly, which is so boring. And I know a lot of people do that, but especially as a non-English or regional English speaker, I have to double check my words all the time. So that would have probably been one.
Annika, thank you so much for your time. It was fun having you, and I wish you all the best.
No, thank you so much. Yeah, it was great. I really enjoyed it.